Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I welcome you to the series History, Science, and Faith in Islam. It is a narrative designed to foster a renewal of faith based on knowledge. This session covers the fall of Granada in 1492, an event that marks the end of Muslim rule in Spain and is a hinge around which world history revolves. It is said amongst Muslims that the hills of El Pujarra around Granada still weep for the sound of adhan every morning, and the mosque of Cordoba stays awake all night waiting for the sajda of a single moment. To this day, Andalus evokes amongst Muslims nostalgia for a golden age when it resonated with the sound of prayer every morning, and the name of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was honored every day. No other country was contested between Muslims and Christians as bitterly as was Spain. The struggle went on for 500 years. When the battles had ended and the last adhan was said from the ramparts of Granada in 1492, Muslims had lost the crown jewel of the Maghrib. Soon they would be tortured and expelled, along with the Jews, from a land they considered the Garden of the West. Their monuments were razed, their mosques destroyed, their libraries burned, and their women were sent as slaves to the courts of Europe. It was a turning point, a milestone, and an event that profoundly and fundamentally changed the flow of global events. Granada did not fall in a single day, nor did its collapse come with a sudden stroke. Rather, it was the last breath of a decayed society which had lost the capacity to defend itself against a sustained offensive from Christian Europe. Long before church bells replaced the call of the Muazzin, and Boabdil, or Abu Abdullah, the last Amir of Granada, stood on the hills of El Pujarra, looked down on his lost capital and wept. Spain had spent itself politically, militarily, and culturally. There was warfare between competing emirs, intrigues within each dynasty, pitting father against son, tension between the religious establishment and corrupt administrators, murder, mayhem, and external aggression. The surrender of Granada was only the final curtain in a drama that had played itself out. The Maghrib was a vast area which included the modern nations of Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Mauritania, Senegambia, Spain, and Portugal. It was separated from Egypt and the Nile Delta by the Libyan Desert, from Europe by the Pyrenees Mountains, and from the Sudan by the Great Saharan Desert. The High Atlas, which branched off into the Andalusian Peninsula, tied together the topography of the region. The hinge for this geographic entity lay in Morocco, Andalus, that is Spain, and Ifriqiya, that is Tunisia, served as its extremities. This vast region was inhabited by a diverse group of people. Andalus was a composite of Hispano-Muslims, Christians, Arabs, and immigrants from North Africa. The Atlas Mountains were home to the Berbers, a sedentary Arab layer resident primarily in the coastal cities, existed side by side with the Berbers. To the south, the historically important tribes of Sanhaja, Zanata, and Navzava roamed the pasture lands. Powerful tribes, such as the Banu Hilal, completed the landscape. The relative isolation of the Maghrib meant that this region had to face its political destiny on its own, more or less isolated from the rest of the Islamic world. To understand the events of 1492, we must take an historical perspective of events dating back to the beginning of the 13th century. The Crusades in Palestine ended with the victory of Salahuddin at the Battle of Hittin in 1186. This was also a period when Al-Muhaddithin power was at its zenith in the Maghrib. The Al-Muhaddithin, Abu Yusuf, won a major victory over the Crusaders at the Battle of Al-Arqos in 1196. The Crusaders regrouped and came back with a vengeance. At the Battle of Las Novas de Tolosa in 1212, a powerful army of the Crusaders overwhelmed the Al-Muhaddithin. The magnitude of this defeat can be understood from the sheer number of soldiers involved. Muslim chroniclers record that as many as 600,000 Al-Muhaddithin took part in the battle. Over 150,000 fell on the battlefield. When we consider that the entire population of the Maghrib at the time was about 3 million, it follows that practically every able-bodied man took part in the battle, and 1/4 of them lost their lives. The Al-Muhaddith Amir al-Nasir, who had assumed the title of Amirul Muslimin, returned distraught from the battle, locked himself up in his palace in Marrakesh, and died soon thereafter in 1213. Sensing an historic opportunity, Castile, Aragon, and Portugal carved up Muslim Spain for conquest. The major towns were overrun one by one. In 1236, Cordoba, the capital of the Umayyad Khilafat in Spain, fell. Sevilla was lost in 1248. Only Granada remained. Muhammad ibn Ahmar of the Nasirid dynasty, who had captured Granada in 1238, managed to maintain his position by becoming a vassal of the Castilian monarch. Granada remained a vassal of Castile until 1333, when the Nasirid Emir Yusuf I abrogated the annual tribute to Castile and made an attempt to carry the war into Christian territories. In North Africa, the Almohadith disintegrated into 3 emirates: the Marinites in Morocco, the Zionids in Algeria, and the Hafsids in Tunisia. The Almohadith capital of Marrakesh faded away, and in its place sprang up 3 regional capitals: Meknes, capital of the Marinites; Tlemcen, capital of the Zionids; and Tunis, capital of the Hafsids. Nostalgia for the Almohadithin Empire was so great that all 3 attempted at one time or the other to recreate an empire that included all of the Maghrib. The first to make an attempt were the Hafsids. In 1236, the Hafsid Amir Yahya I, claiming his descent from Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, declared himself Amirul Muslimin. When he died, his son Al-Mustansir succeeded him. Events in faraway Baghdad presented an historic opportunity to Al-Mustansir. When Hulagu Khan occupied and destroyed Baghdad in 1258, the Islamic world looked to North Africa for leadership. For a brief period of 1 year, from 1260 to 1261, Al-Mustansir was recognized as the Khalifa by the world of Islam. The khutbah was read in his name all over the Muslim world. The title was short-lived because the Mamluk Sultan Baybars of Egypt resurrected the Abbasid Khilafat in Cairo in 1261, in part to provide an ideological boost to his troops who were on their way to Palestine in a desperate attempt to stop the Mongols at the Battle of Ain Jalut in 1261. With the move of the Khilafat to Cairo, the center stage of Islamic history moved back east. Al-Mustansir paid the price for his Khilafat of 1 year. In 1260, Louis IX of France, in the mistaken belief that defeating Al-Mustansir would deal a death blow to all Islam, invaded and briefly occupied the city of Tunis. During this period, there existed a de facto alliance between the Crusaders and the Mongols to conquer the Muslim world. However, the numerous attempts made by Louis IX to conquer North Africa were repelled, and he died during a siege of Tunis in 1270. The defeat at Las Novas de Tolosa in 1212 was a result of several interrelated political, religious, and economic factors. There was deep distrust between the Spanish emirs and the Almohadithin of North Africa. This led to poor coordination on the battlefield. Within the Almohadith court, there was infighting between the religious establishment and the vizier. The Almohadith ulama had a running quarrel with the Grand Vizier Jamai and demanded his removal. The detrimental effect of this quarrel can be appreciated from the structure of the Almohadith court. The Amir was the head of the state. In the discharge of his responsibilities, he delegated the administrative and military affairs to the Grand Vizier and the judiciary affairs to the Chief Qazi. A fight between the administrative military wing and the judiciary wing was a disaster. In modern terminology, it is like two senior vice presidents of a corporation fighting with each other before launching a new product line. The economic condition of the empire was precarious. Inflation was rampant, which in turn led to corruption. On his way to Spain to fight the Christians in 1210, the Almohadith Amir al-Nasir stopped off in Fez and Ceuta and had the governors of the two provinces beheaded for corruption. Lastly, the Almohadith doctrines, heavily influenced by the Mutazilites, were deeply suspect in the eyes of the ulama, who tolerated the Almohadiths as a shield against the aggression of the Crusaders, but otherwise offered them no support. In the next 80 years, between 1248 and 1328, a political equilibrium developed in the Western Mediterranean, involving Castile, Aragon, and Portugal on the Christian side, and the Maronites, Zionists, Hafsids, and Granada on the Muslim side. The tribe of Banu Hilal in the south joined this fray from time to time. Political alliances shifted back and forth, and it was not uncommon for a Muslim emir to side with a Christian king against another emir, or for a Christian chief to support a Muslim against a fellow Christian. Meanwhile, the power struggle between the Maronites, the Zionists, and the Hafsids continued. The Maronites gradually gained the upper hand over the other two. In 1269, the Maronite Yaqub took Marrakesh and followed it up with the capture of Sijil Masa. Granada was under pressure from Castile and appealed to the Maronites for assistance. Yaqub crossed over the Straits of Gibraltar and inflicted a defeat on the Christians at the Battle of Écija in 1274. In 1279, the Maronite navy won a battle against the combined naval squadron of Castile and Portugal. While Yaqub was busy helping Granada, the Zionists were at the throat of the Hafsids. The Emir of Granada, in a thankless rebuff to the Maronites, joined forces with Castile and occupied the city of Tarifa in 1291. In 1295, the Granadans incited a revolt in Ceuta against the Maronites. Disgusted with the thankless emirs in Spain, the Maronite Yaqub turned his attention more towards North Africa. By 1307, he had conquered all of the Maghreb, except the easternmost provinces of Ifriqiya, which is modern Tunisia. The Maronites in Morocco reached their greatest strength under the emirs Ali and Abu Inan between 1331 and 1357. It was the Maronite Emir Abu Inan who was the patron of Ibn Battuta, the celebrated Muslim world traveler. There was a resurgence of Islamic solidarity in the Maghreb during this period. In 1340, the Moroccans defeated the Castilian navy and laid siege to Tarifa. For a change, there was close cooperation between Granada and the Maronites in Morocco. The Granadan Yusuf I cast off the Castilian yoke and turned to the Maronites across the straits for support. However, in 1341, a Castilian force, assisted by crusaders from France, Italy, and England, defeated a combined force of Granadans and Maronites. This was an indication that the balance of power in the Western Mediterranean was turning in favor of the Christians and away from Africa. After the Crusades ended in Palestine circa 1190, the balance of power in the Mediterranean moved counterclockwise, with the Turks advancing upon Anatolia and southeastern Europe, while the Christians gained the upper hand in Spain and North Africa. The Spaniards, sensing blood, followed up their victory and captured Algeciras in Morocco in 1244. Amir Ali was hampered in his efforts at the consolidation of the Maghreb by two factors. The first was the Black Plague, which engulfed his kingdom, much as it did West Asia and Europe between 1346 and 1360, causing widespread death and economic dislocation. And the second, the recurrent uprisings of the Banu Hilal tribe. 4 years later, the Banu Hilal, at the Battle of Khairawun, defeated Amir Ali himself, and his dream of a Maghribi empire came to an end. Events now flowed inexorably in favor of the Crusaders. In 1355, the Genoese briefly occupied Tripoli. In 1390, the French attacked Mahdia, which is in Tunisia. In 1399, Morocco was sacked by Castile. In 1415, Ceuta in Morocco was captured by Portugal. One may juxtapose these losses with the Ottoman victories in Europe, where Bayezid I defeated the Serbs at the Battle of Kosovo in 1389, captured Serbia, Bosnia, Albania, Skopje, and smashed the combined Crusader army at the Battle of Nicopolis in 1396. With both Ceuta and Algeciras in the hands of the Christians, communications between Granada and Morocco across the Straits of Gibraltar were cut. The news around Granada tightened. This concludes part 1 of our presentation on the fall of Granada. In the next session, inshallah, we'll continue with an analysis of the political, social, and military reasons that led to the end of Muslim rule in Spain. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.